The video I've been dreading making all day. So, I went out, had a few drinks last night, and now I wake up, miserable fucking day. Went for a swim, I was feeling a lot better after that. Oh, but still can't ignore that woeful fucking performance from Ireland. What the fuck was that? That was terrible. Let's just call it what it is. Brutal. So there's a lot to unpack in that. And I would actually just say I think it's a good thing that they lost in such a fashion because let's just admit it. There's been a lot of problems in Irish rugby for a while. That World Cup exit proved it. Um, but it's the All Blacks, and we only lost by 4 points, so we can say, oh, that's fine, don't worry about that. We got a draw in South Africa, so I mean, they're the world champions, and they actually did do quite well in that, to be fair. But that's the thing is, we know they have talent, but they're not consistent enough at all. And that's my big problem. So let's unpack that for a second, all right? Because Ireland are not consistent. They don't seem to have that fight or hunger in the belly, and that really pisses me off about them. We always have to be underdogs for everything. Like the autumn series, after losing to the All Blacks in 2023 in that World Cup, where we were expected to win the fucking thing, and I was a miserable prick, so I was there saying, I don't think they're going to beat the All Blacks, and loads of people were telling me they thought they would, and I was like, no, I don't feel like they are. I feel like the All Blacks will find another gear, and Ireland just won't have enough in the tank. They won't show up, and they didn't show up. They are bottlers. I love the Irish rugby team because I'm an Irish rugby fan and I'll always support them. Sure, I still support the Irish football team. That's not loyalty for you. I don't know what is, but I always want our teams to do well. And even if they do shite, I'll still support them. But I'm going to call it out when it happens. And they got to kick up the hole, or at least I hope they did. But they probably won't. They haven't done enough to build depth in the side. There's not enough fire in the belly. The backline just aren't performing well enough at all. And there doesn't seem to be that hunger or desire that you see with other nations, does there? Like, I mean, the Autumn Series was a chance for us to beat the All Blacks in Ireland and to shut them up after all the shit going on with Rico Ioane and Johnny Sexton, which seemed to cause more fucking interest in the actual game. And we went out like a fucking fart in the wind, to be honest. We were shite. We didn't perform. We didn't look like we wanted to beat them. And they beat us comfortably. And that shut us right up, really did. An easy victory for the All Blacks, and that was it. And then a woeful performance against Argentina and Australia. But we won 22-19, so who cares, right? It's 3 wins out of 4 games, and the only team we lost was the All Blacks. Hammered Fiji, but you're always expecting that. If you don't hammer Fiji with a strength team like that, with a pretty strong side, um, even if it was our seconds team, and Fiji were ill disciplined, so you always expect to beat them. But I feel like we learned nothing from that. And the fact that we won those games despite playing shite is bad because you don't feel like you have to change anything because you win games. But it's a very poor Australian team. They are improving drastically, but they were still very poor. And yet we handed everything to them. They were the only team to make any line breaks at all, and the only team to look dangerous as well. Like I went into that pit. I went to that game, Ireland versus Australia, um, and I remember the atmosphere was incredible at the start. You couldn't even get into the stadium at first. The queues were massive and the game had already kicked off. It was packed. The fans were all delighted with life. And by half time, we were all like, is that it? Really? So deflating. No excitement, such a boring and dull game. And we got over the line, but I've talked about this before, right? And here's a saying that you need to listen to that has been used for years in rugby, because you got your 8 forwards, right, and then you've got your 7 backs. And the old saying always goes, the forwards decide who wins the game, the backs decide by how much. And what does that actually mean? What it means is the forwards do the hard yards, so they're scrummaging, they're winning lineouts, they're getting over the gain line, they're sucking in loads of defenders. So that, like, say if I run with the ball and 2 defenders have to take me down, and maybe 3, or if I break through tackles, that's defenders that are not back in the defensive line, meaning who gets the ball? The backs, and if they use the ball wisely, they can spread it to the centres and the wingers, and they score the tries, meaning that most of the backs get the tries, right? And let's look at all the other teams, right? So who's getting their tries? So if you look at England against Ireland, who got the tries there? Tommy Freeman, a winger. Caden Murley, a winger. I mean, one forward, Tom Curry, got a try. So that's two tries by backs, one by a forward. The forwards can score tries as well, fair enough, but you look at their game against France, where they played excellent, like in fairness to them, but France were sloppy also. But when England beat France, Elliot Daly got the try, Tommy Freeman got another try, you had Ollie Lawrence getting another try, and then Finn Baxter getting one. So that's four tries, three by backs, one by a forward. All right, that's how it should be, you know. And in fairness to England, they fought very hard for that. Now against Scotland, they were brutal. Gonna have to be a lot better against Italy tomorrow, but I'm sure they will be, and I'm sure they'll get over the line. Their one controversial try, of course, that wasn't even a try for me, was scored by Tommy Freeman. Okay, so let's just look at that for a second. So, three tries against us, okay, four against France, that's seven, and then one again against Scotland, eight. Alright, so put that into context. Eight tries, only two of them by forwards, six of them by backs. That adds to the saying, doesn't it? And the forwards did a very hard shift for England, but the backs are the ones scoring the tries. Then you look at France, okay, let's look at them. So, against Wales in their opening game, they hammered them 43-0. Both wingers getting two tries each. Bielbury, who was again outstanding today, I have to say, he's been the best player of the tournament for me so far, and he will definitely keep his spot on my team of the week, no doubt about it. Should have gotten the whiteboard out. I feel like my predictions have gone to shit since I stopped using the magic whiteboard. And here it is. Who will make my team of the week this week? We'll have to see. But I think I'm going to have to start using this again. My predictions were actually okay until I stopped using it. And in the last 2 weeks when I did the predictions, they went to shit. But must be a magic whiteboard. But just take it. So, against Wales, who scored the tries? Louis Bielbury got two, and that's from the French forwards working extremely hard so that the backs can get the tries. Teo Adesogbi got two tries. Then Emilien Gailleton got one, and then the other two were scored by Julien Marchand and I'm just trying to think, Gregory Aujourdhui. So that's seven tries, and five of them are by backs, two of them are by forwards. Then look at France against England. All three of their tries were scored by backs. Damien Penaud, who again started today and scored another one. You know, you knew he was going to be back in flying form. But he got one and Bielbury got two. He scored two tries in every game. He's been incredible in fairness to him. Even though they lost, the backs are still scoring the tries and the forwards did do the hard yards. But it was an off day for France in general. Against Italy now with an absolute whitewash against Italy. Like, I'm going to actually struggle to remember, but I know Teo Adesogbi got one, Bielbury got two, as always, Leo Barry got two, Antoine Dupont got two, forwards that got tries. I know Movaka got one, Gregory Aldridge got one. Any others? Oh yeah, Michael Guillard, who wasn't as predominant today, but still puts himself about a good player, you know. Paul Boudon got one, and he got one again today, you know, and he's been massive, quite literally and metaphorically. Very good player, a player I like. You know, he's physical, he's a big fella, like a specimen, and him and Francois Crowe or Gregory Aldridge maybe held us up over the line. Big, powerful forwards, but just looking at that, because Leo Barry got two, Bielbury got two, that's four already. Then Adesogbi got one, so that's five. Struggling for a second. Barassi got one. Pierre Louis Barassi. I called him Lucas. I apologise. Pierre Louis. Six by backs, and then you had Dupont getting two as well. Didn't get a hat trick, I don't think, but I could be wrong on that. They scored so many; it was an absolute whitewash, and I think France were wearing white that day. So, yeah, so that's eight tries, and I'm trying to remember just to make sure that I didn't forget who scored. Maxime Luca was the only back on the bench that day. They did the 7-1 split, and it worked again for them today. Oscar Jagu was brilliant, had a really good game. Playing at centre, he was outstanding. He wanted it more than any of our boys, that's for sure. But just going to my point, so I'm trying to remember how many tries France scored against Italy because they got so many, but 8 of them were by backs, which is how it should be. And then Aujourdhui, Boudon, and Movaka. Was it 11 tries, was it? It's 3 by forwards. I'm fairly sure. Aujourdhui, Movaka, Boudon, and Guillard so far. So that they got 12 tries, fuck me. 8 by backs, 4 by forwards, so double the amount. You get the picture, right? You know what I'm doing. And then today, France, when they annihilated us, what did they do? Peno got 1, and again, the brilliant Biel Barry got 2. Then Jagu, who I don't know, would you class him as a back today because he played in the centres, but no, he's a forward. He's a forward. Him and Boudon got 2 tries. So 5 tries by the team, 3 by backs, 2 by forwards. Though I have to admit, how was that Thibaut Flamand clear out on O'Mahony, which I'm going to get into. I could talk about the game in a sec, but that clearly was taking him out off the ball. Just saying, and I'm going to get into that after. But even still, like, they deserve to win completely. Dupont would have had a try in the first half, were it not for a knock on. But the back line scoring the tries. 3 by backs, 2 by forwards. Okay, and then we're going to look at we will look at Scotland. So Scotland played England last week and had a really good game against them, but against Italy. So the first game, right? And I know we beat Scotland, yeah, fine, but this is my point that I'm going to make. So when Scotland played Italy in week 1, Rory Darge got a try, Hugh Jones got 3, I think Ben White got the other one, so that's 4 by backs and 1 by a forward out of 5 tries. Again, the majority of them, a quarter of the tries were scored by a forward. How it should be, if your backline are firing the way they should be. Should be. Against us now, they really did not play well. They didn't deserve to win that game at all, but Duhan van der Merwe and Ben White again scoring. Ben White's been in good form, to be fair to him. So they got 2 tries and both of them were by backs. Then against England, really good performance, deserved to win in fairness to them. They didn't, they always show up for the Calcutta Cup. Haven't watched their game today, heard they won, but I'm going to watch that and I'll review that tomorrow. But against England, Hugh Jones scored, Duhan van der Merwe, of course, scored against England, and Ben White. 3 tries by 3 backs. That's how it should be. And then we look at Italy, right? So Italy played, and Juan Ignacio Brex got their only try against Scotland. It's a back. Then when they played against Wales, Ange Capozzo got their only try. Again, another try by a back. Italy are a team that, kick their points because they have to, because they don't have the same strength in the back line as other teams. But now when they played against France, Ignacio Brex and Menoncello got tries and Garbisi got the other one. So even in the losing team, the backs are the ones getting the tries. 3 of the tries scored by Italy's backs. So that'll just show you right there. Okay, and in Wales, who have been lacklustre in attack, so you don't really, Wales have been very poor. So I'm going to review the other game. But going off the games up until round 3, penalty try and Aaron Wainwright scored against Italy. Up until that, they hadn't scored any points. So then against us, Tommy Raphael and Tom Rogers. So 1 by a forward, 1 by a back. But that's with a very poor and lacklustre attack that Wales have. Ellis Mee nearly getting a try. So the saying seems to check out, doesn't it? The forwards decide who wins, the backs decide by how much. Not for Ireland. So I said it in the autumn internationals, okay? So we got 15 tries in 4 games, which is nearly 4 tries every game, bar 1, of course. 15 tries, you think very good, that's 4 tries nearly every game. Not when you look at it though. Only 6 of them were by backs, and 4 of those tries were scored against Fiji, who you should be scoring against anyway, Two of them were against Argentina, which I mean is more impressive. But Jack Crowley got one of them. 9 of the tries were by forwards. So, like in the crunch games as well. Okay, so against New Zealand, Van der Fleer got her only try. No backs, they were shite. The backs did not do anything in that game. They were woeful. Against Argentina, Mac Hansen, haven't been set up by Ty Burnham, I'd say, who nearly got one himself. And then Jack Crowley scoring a very good try at the start too. John McCarthy getting another one. But even in the game against Fiji, where you think the backs be running and walking in the tries, even sorry, the forwards are still stepping up. Gus McCarthy, Quel and Doris, Van der Fleer, etc. And Kelleher as well. So it's still, like, even in that game, it's 50-50 between tries by backs and forwards. And then against Australia, where there was literally no creativity, and Prendergast did not show that he deserved that Ireland number 10 jersey in either of those games, in my opinion. Yellow card against Fiji, and then a very poor performance against Australia. And Argentina, he didn't score any points when he came on for Jack Crowley. You know, the game was woeful at the end. Argentina could have won it if they had any sort of strength or depth whatsoever. Argentina just didn't want it. Against Australia, we had fuck all ideas. We were brutal. And so we left it up to the forwards just to go, fuck it, you have it, and off, over you go. And they did, in fairness to them. Gus McCarthy again, Caelan Doris and Josh Van der Fleer. The backs did nothing. You know, they were shocking. And then we look at this Six Nations, right? So I was counting it out, just to see, right? So against England, we got the bonus point win, great, but we got 4 tries, 2 of them by backs, 2 of them by forwards. Alright, so that's 50-50. You're kind of thinking, okay, fair enough. Both the backs that scored were, of course, Antibodian. And the only ones that seemed to show up in the back line for Ireland, in fairness. And then Dan Sheehan and Tyke Byrne crashing over. Against Scotland, we had James Lowe getting a very well deserved try. It's unfortunate he couldn't play today. Osborne didn't take his chance. I didn't feel, just wasn't good enough today at all. Then just thinking Nash, of course, Calvin Nash, who tried today but not great, but he got the other try. Both wingers, you're kind of happy enough with that. But then Jack Conan having to step up big time to score for us, and just thinking who else got our try. It's Jack Conan and Caelan Doris, so 2 forwards, 2 backs scoring again, so it's 50-50. Make sure that we win that game, I won by 14, so you think about it, those 2 tries are what got us to win, essentially. And then against Wales, which we were shite in, that was a brutal game. Expect us to hammer them. We didn't have any desire at all, and it cost us today because we didn't have any desire today either. 1 try by Osborne, 1 try by Jack Conan again. Jack Conan is outstanding. What can I say? He's a brilliant player. So far, that's 50-50 in every regard, So, half the tries by backs, half by forwards. Not good enough at all. Not nearly. That's 10 tries, 5 by forwards, 5 by backs. And then today, when we were actually put under the cosh and France brought it to us, the backs did nothing. Useless. Had nothing in the tank whatsoever. And all the tries were by forwards. 2 of them were by replacement forwards, in my dad as well. So that's, you do the math. It's 13 tries and 8 of them are by forwards and only 5 of them are by backs. That's simply not good enough from our back line. They look out of ideas. Henshaw looks very slow. Aki's giving it everything he can, but he's getting way past it now. He's a warrior, he is, but he's battered and bruised. He just can't do what he used to do. That's not fair to keep asking that of him. But you've looked at every other team, I've said, and what's the common trend? Except for Wales, of course, but that's because Wales has just been shocking in every area of the pitch, But it looks like things are on the up now, I hope. Looks like things are getting better for them. But Ireland the back line are not doing it. Getting no goal for a ball. Prendergast was slow. Every time he got it, he was slow. He looked like he looked like he thought he had way more time than he did. And he was just shoveling pass on, even when it wasn't on, like what I said about Finn Russell. That try for Penno was because he shouldn't have given the pass. He shoveled it on anyway, and they got an intercept, which just weren't good enough. Um, the lack of creativity in our backline is horrendous. It's so bad, and it's up to James Lowe a lot of the time to come up with a moment of individual brilliance, which in fairness he has done for us. Um, but just lack of creativity. Teams are figuring us out so easily, and it's not good enough. And Prendergast had a shocker today, and certainly hasn't justified his selection. I don't think he's justified his selection in any of the games, bar maybe the Scotland game where he was, in fairness, excellent. But we have to also remember Scotland were very poor. Scotland gave nothing in that game, really. I think we forget because it's a win in Murrayfield, which is always huge, and it's a bonus point win in Murrayfield. But this game today, right? So I want to just give you a stat that I noticed, which is worrying, and it should worry everyone. So before we got the final two tries, so this is like kind of halfway through the second half because Cian Healy came on with 12 minutes to go, and in fairness to him, we did well when he came on. Showed more desire than anyone else, that's for sure. But we had 6 visits to the French 22, and we only had 7 points to show for it. They had 7 visits to our 22, so only one more, and they scored 29 points. That'll tell you all you need to know. Not clinical enough at all when we got into their 22, and it was the same against England. Sure, how long were we in their 22 and we didn't score any points? With something like 86% possession. Possession. Let's get that one out. Yeah, and like they held us out, and France looked out on their feet. Like, come about 15 minutes, they were gasped. Like they were just gasping for air. Um, Movaka was down, like heavy breathing. You're like, Jesus, he's down. Like he's a fit player. He's one of the fittest players they've got. Their whole pack were just absolutely gassed, and we never took advantage of that at all. Prendergast missing an easy enough kick. He got the rest in fairness, but he had a shocker. He really did. I don't think he's justified his selection at all. And to be fair, he's extremely young and inexperienced. Like I think 13 Leinster caps. That does not justify you getting in and having the start in 10 jersey. The Scotland performance, you think maybe, yeah, but he didn't back it up with today's performance, and he didn't back it up with the Welsh performance either, because he's inexperienced. Jack Crowley and Kieran Frawley for me. More experience. They need the game time. They're not getting it, and it seems like whoever's in charge of the Irish team, like in the background, and Easterby and Farrell, they've just decided Sam Prendergast is the wonder kid, and that's it. We're not being told otherwise, even though the evidence is to the contrary. Most missed tackles in the whole competition. That's just an inexcusable stat, and that's a weakness that you can't afford to be having on the pitch, especially against a massive team like France. And like in the opening 20 minutes, France had made something like, or maybe even 30 minutes, but they'd made 38 tackles, missed none. We hadn't even made any tackles. We'd missed 2 and we hadn't made any. That's a worrying stat. We fall off far too many tackles. We were very passive. They wanted it more, and let's not forget as well, France had a lot of the game playing with a back rower at 13, and still they got over the line. They just had way more desire than us. Ireland just had nothing in the tank whatsoever. When Dan Sheehan got that try in the corner, I thought, now we push on. 13-8 up, let's go. But we just didn't. We didn't want it. And France did, and they just physically dominated. And their backline, BL Barry, moments of brilliance, looks dangerous every time he gets on the ball. He was better than Penno, but Penno had a better game. Boudon, of course, and Jagu getting over for the tries. That Jagu try, Ireland just looked like they weren't thirst. It was so easy just to push Ireland around. It really was. Remember when Osborne got the ball on the left wing, they just so casually shoved him out into touch, with no effort whatsoever. And you just think to yourself, like, Ireland always let us down every time there's a big occasion or a chance to win something. So they let us down in the World Cup again, which they always do. They've never made it past the quarter final, and just keeps getting the chokers tag every time. without fail, because they are chokers. They've proven they are. Like, there's a chance to get rid of that tag by winning, and they just seem to fail every time. So then you have that. Then you have a chance to go back to back Grand Slams for the first time ever. Be the first team to ever do that straight after the World Cup, and you get a win in Marseille against France. So you think, great, what a start. Then they lose against England by playing some of the worst fucking rugby I've ever seen. They didn't want that game against England. They gave England that game, and England took it and won by a point, even though they weren't playing very well. We handed the game to them and showed them no desire whatsoever. And we didn't get the Grand Slam, the back-to-back ones. You can break records here and make history. You should care about that. You should want to fucking do that. But they didn't. Leinster, of course, choking in several Investec Champions Cup finals. No use getting there if you can't win it. Leinster choking against the Bulls in the URC when they're at home, like they're in the RDS. So you think they'll beat the Bulls, but they didn't. They lost in their home game, in their home ground against the Bulls, who just wanted it more. Clearly, that's it. Munster and Leinster sent packing. In the last URC, it feels like they always have to be the underdogs. Like Munster won the URC when everything was against them. They had to beat Glasgow in Glasgow. They had to beat Leinster in Leinster. Then they had to beat the Stormers in Cape Town. And they did it incredibly. And then the next season, perfect season, top the URC table, win every game, have a bit of a blip against the Ospreys, and yet still, they get over the line with ease, and you think, okay, now you're at home against Glasgow. You hate Glasgow. So you've got to beat them when it's a big game. Glasgow have 2 yellow cards, and Munster managed to still lose that game. And Nankivell gets a red card towards the end. It was an absolute shocking performance by Munster. Not good enough at all. And then Leinster going to Pretoria and just being schooled by the Bulls. Not showing any desire whatsoever. Ryan Baird making a mistake that he'd normally never make, dropping the ball off a kick-off, giving the Bulls an easy chance to power over with the scrum. And then losing to Toulouse, who they could have easily beaten, and they had every chance to. They bottled it again against La Rochelle. They bottled it. It's just getting ridiculous. It's a bad joke at this stage. It really is. When you look at the resources Leinster have, they should be winning a lot more than what they are. And I know they're unbeaten this season, but I'm yet to be convinced, because they should be winning a hell of a lot more than what they are. Munster the same, to be honest. But back to the national team. You have a chance to go back to back, and they bottled that, okay? So then you think to yourself, okay, well, you have a chance to be the first team to win 3 Six Nations in a row. You beat England, you beat Scotland in Murrayfield, which I thought was the hardest game. I thought that was the one, the make or break one. Thought we would beat France in Ireland. I did. I genuinely was trying not to be a negative prick, because I said we'd be knocked out of the World Cup by New Zealand, and we were, but I still didn't feel good that I was right. I was like, oh, fuck's sake, I was right, I hoped I wasn't, but I knew I would be, sadly. So I thought, I'm going to manifest some positive energy, put some positivity out there. I thought, if I try to believe, maybe they will. And I genuinely, I did think we would win. I didn't think it was going to be easy, but I thought, home crowd, Cian Healy, Peter O'Mahony and Conor Murray's last game in Ireland, do it for them. And also because you can be the first team to win 3 Six Nations in a row. All you've got to do is win this game. It's the big one, the crunch. Then you play Italy in a week's time. That's the end of it, and you can win. And they just did not show up, did not bother their arse. They bottled it. The crowd looked dead. They did. The Irish crowd had nothing to cheer about. What did they have to cheer about? That was a shocking performance. Just not good enough. No desire, no effort. They seem to just show up thinking they can do the same shit every week and it'll be good enough, and it's not. Teams have figured them out. And after a woeful performance 2 weeks ago against Wales, you'd think that'd be the kick up the hole they needed to go, look, we're still in a contest here. And people have said the Irish team are like robots. Certainly justified on that performance. They do the same shit every time, thinking it'll work, and teams have copped onto it. You shouldn't have to rely on your forwards to do all the hard work, but they do. The forwards do way too much. That's a good thing for them. Like, they work very hard, but they do an awful lot more work than the backs, from what I can see. They work so much harder than our backline. Our backline need to step up more because they're not doing enough. It's not good enough. The French proved that. You know, Ireland were shit out of luck, smashed in defence by the French, who just looked like they wanted it more, and they did. And they deserved their win. Um, they wanted it way more than Ireland did, and to have 27 points on the board, I feel flatters Ireland, to be honest with you. But I have to get to something now because Ireland did not deserve to win that game. That's fair enough, you know. They bottled another thing, you know, a chance to, like, it doesn't matter. We've won the Six Nations before, but that was a chance to make history. And I think it's going to be very hard because I don't fancy Scotland to beat France. England will probably get a bonus point win against Italy, and they could probably do it against Wales as well. So it's not looking too good for Ireland's chances, to be honest. We always have to rely on people to do us a favour, you know, which is bollocks. You shouldn't have to rely on other people to win games for you, but we always fucking do. You know, everything was in our hands and we bottled it again. Um, yeah, Kane Healy coming off the bench, Dan Sheehan getting a try off the back of a maul, good try. Healy just barrelling over. Jack Conan, the brilliant player, controversial selection, my arse. I don't know why they say that about him. He's always excellent. Three tries he's gotten in the tournament in 4 games, and most of them have been off the bench. Only one start, actually. That's phenomenal. He's so good. Such a good player. He always shows up without fail. But the backs had nothing. No answers at all. Henshaw and Aki tried, but he just doesn't have the gas anymore. Henshaw was slow and sluggish. I thought Nash tried to get into the game, but just didn't have enough power or strength. The French marked him very well, and BL Paris had his number the whole game. Keenan had an alright game, not great, you know, especially by his standards. Osborne was poor. I expected a lot more from him in this Six Nations, and he hasn't delivered. Sad to say, but it's true. Gibson Park had a quiet game as well. Prendergast just had a shocker. Proved that he's not up to it at this level, and he needs more game time for the province. I think he just came straight in without playing AAL or anything. It was just straight from senior school to the Leinster Academy and then into the Ireland setup. Like, they just decide one fella is the golden child or the wonder kid, and they're not willing to admit that they could be wrong about it. So they're just going to stick with them, which I don't get. We're not building enough depth. We're not doing anything right. And it's come back to bite us in the arse. And I think this is a fucking wake up call we need. Whether it will be or not, I don't know. But one excellent performance against Scotland by Prendergast. Fair play to him, but he's too young and inexperienced at this level, and he hasn't done enough to justify starting ahead of Jack Crowley for me. Not at all. Like, Leinster haven't won anything in the last 5 years. Maybe they won the URC during COVID, I think, and that's the last thing they've won. So you whoopee fucking do, you know. Prendergast hasn't won anything in a Leinster shirt, so how does that justify him starting ahead of Jack Crowley, who won the URC and delivered in big moments with Munster? I don't think it does, to be honest. And I think Kieran Frawley should probably be on the bench at 10. You know, you've got other players. You've got Colin Ford playing excellently. JJ Hanrahan seems to be doing quite well. Yeah, I don't know. But they're making the balls of it. The French just wanted it more. Touching on these decisions now, though, by Angus Gardner, and I just thought to myself, even though they didn't, France probably still would have won, but that Paul Boudon try was not a try. That was a clear takeout off the ball by Thibaut Flamand. They seemed more interested, first of all, with the Calvin Nash incident, the yellow card, and then the ref asked about the clear out off the ball, and he said, oh man, he stepped back away from the ruck. Yeah, of course he did, because he wanted to be out of the fucking firing line so he could tackle. He was clearly taken out of the defensive line illegally by Thibaut Flamand, and nothing was done about it. Try. Any other team, that's not a try. Like, how come that aujourdhui dive stopped the try for um, Ronan Kelleher? Okay, so let's look at those two incidents. For me, the one with Thibaut Flamand on Peter O'Mahony was a lot more blatant than that hold by Tyg Byrne on Maro Itoje. One's a penalty to disallow a try for Ireland, and another is just allowed play on, even though he clearly takes him way past the ruck and creates a gap in the defensive line, which leads to a try. But that's fine, apparently. Didn't you know? And then a bit of diving by Penno to milk a penalty out of Andrew Porter for obstruction. What's Andrew Porter supposed to do? He stood his ground, he didn't move, he never blocked. He doesn't have to get out of the way, he just cannot impede the runner. Now, if he runs backwards and gets in the way, he runs a player off the ball. That's a penalty. So what the fuck is he supposed to do? You know? That's straight after Ireland kick a penalty, so it hands the initiative straight back to France. Penno clearly was not obstructed. He ran straight into Porter. I know you have to give clear access to the ball, but I don't see what Porter can do. If he runs backwards, he's not going towards the ball, and he's not allowed to stand in the way of Penno competing for the ball, but he's allowed to stand his ground, and that's all he did, and that's a penalty for obstruction. There was a lot of play acting by the French and looking for penalties by going to ground, and we've already seen that rewarded with that pathetic dive by Ben Curry from Ewan Ashman and Maro Itoje from the Tyg Byrne hold. So two bits of diving that got rewarded already. And if you saw that ridiculous incident with Will Skelton and Romain Briat for La Rochelle against Stade Francais, and Stade Francais are a dirty team. You know, there's a lot of trick acting, a lot of diving, and a lot of cheating going on with them. They had an absolutely shambolic display against Munster, and they were disgraceful. You know, lifting Casey off the ground, cheap shots, fucking forearm to the jaw. Don't like their attitude at all. So the French are obviously leading the way in the diving. South Africans aren't great for it either now, in fairness, and then Nick White, of course. We all know about that. But like as well, there was another incident in that game where I thought John McCarthy deserved the yellow card for holding back Tomo Ramos, but you know when Jean-Baptiste Gros got penalised when the ball was thrown to go out wide, and he was clearly offside, so was Tomo Ramos. Two players that were in an offside position that prevented a clean line break. One of them should have gone to the bin. It should have been Jean-Baptiste Gros. And then at the end of the game, that's when Angus Gardner decides to start awarding penalties and giving a yellow card. Like, that's no use anymore, you know. I feel like he was poor, very poor in this game, and I feel like there was bias against Ireland from the ref, but it's not the reason they lost. You know, so like I'm clutching at straws here, I know, but France still would have won. I just want to clarify that, but the refereeing was shite by Angus Gardner. That shouldn't have been a try for Paul Boudon. That was clear obstruction and taking out past the ball from Thibaut Flamand. O'Mahony was not in the ruck, and Flamand took him out clean off the ball. You might say that O'Mahony dived, but guess what? So did Penno, so did Itoje, and so did Ben Curry. So if you're going to be honest about it, call those fuckers out for diving. He was still taken out off the ball by Flamand, and the ref didn't penalise Flamand for it, and it led to a try. It would have been a penalty for France anyway, fair enough, but that wasn't a try. There was no obstruction by Andrew Porter and Damien Penaud. That was bullshit. That was not obstruction. Not at all. And then two players were offside for France, and then they actually hit the ball from an offside position, which led to Ireland not getting a clean line break. Not a yellow card, just a penalty. It should have been a yellow for Jean-Baptiste Gros. And then from a kick-off, I felt like there was a real obvious knock-on and an offside in front of Flamand. Flamand went up for the ball and he was good under it all day, but he made contact with that and it was just played, even though I think it was Aldry or Francois Crowe was clearly ahead of him and the ball was knocked into him. It was offside and it should have been called and it wasn't. It should have been a penalty. But as I say, Ireland's desire was not there. They didn't want that game. They were very poor. Shocking game to watch. France definitely deserved the win. better team by a mile, and like they won the game with having a flanker playing a 13. So they would have won anyway. But I mean, I just hate the lack of consistent refereeing. I felt like Gardner should have got those things right, and he didn't. I feel like the yellow cards for Ireland were both fair. Nash should have gotten lower. He's absorbing the hit. They said high degree of danger. I don't think there was. He was absorbing the hit more than anything. It's a yellow card though, to be fair. And John McCarthy was foolish to pull back Ramos, which he clearly did as well. So no complaints about them. But Jean Baptiste, Jean Baptiste, Sean Connery, push galore. Jean Baptiste Gros should have gotten a yellow for preventing a clean line break. It was also a knock on by Paul Boudon. Now you might even argue it was harsh because he was coming around to wrap, but he never made any contact with Tyke Byrne, and then he made a knock on. So it did look pretty deliberate to me. Was there a clear line break? I don't know. Maybe a penalty was the fair call. So probably, yeah, that was probably the right call, to be fair on that one. I think a yellow card would have been quite harsh. And Boudon had a very good game, in fairness to him. I think he was the best back rower for them, by a mile. But yeah, I'm gutted, absolutely gutted. I feel like that should be a kick up the hole that Irish rugby needs now, because clearly they're doing something wrong. The back line aren't doing nearly enough hard work. The forwards are doing too much. That they're having to do too much for the team, and it's not good enough. Like, it's a simple game. You have bulk and size and you get over the gain line, but Ireland just aren't winning those collisions. And it's just something that I wanted to talk about that I think might seem irrelevant, but my brother before, he's a big lad, big strong fella, and he played at centre, and 12 or 13, normally 13, kind of like a Matthew Bastareaud or Manu Tuolangi. But a big strong guy who can move as well, like he's fast. And he was gone for a Leinster trial before, and this lad had never seen him play. The lad in charge of the trials, never seen him play, and asked him what position he was, and he said centre, and he laughed at him and says, "You're too overweight to play centre. That's definitely going to change. You haven't even seen him play. How the fuck do you know that?" You don't. They're so arrogant. The Leinster branch a lot of times, and I have to call it out. I've been saying, I think there's definitely, like, I did think there was some arrogance there. I think Irish rugby is way too arrogant. Leinster are far too arrogant for far too little results. Like to hear people calling out the fans, saying the fans are obnoxiously arrogant. Look, every team's going to be arrogant when they get successful, and it's not as if England fans, Scotland fans, and all, and Welsh fans aren't arrogant as well. But the team certainly seems to have an air of arrogance about them. Like, they'll just rock up and win all the time. The stuffed shirts of Irish rugby, like the ones who run it, they seem to be very arrogant. So, and there's big problems there. Ireland are doing something wrong. They should be winning more than they are. They're bottling it every time a big occasion comes. They can win games that are dead rubbers, but they can't win the games that are going to, make history. Every time they have a chance to make history, they never do it. Everyone's won a Grand Slam now. England have won a Grand Slam. So have France, so have Wales. Scotland and Italy never have, but 4 of the teams have. Ireland have obviously done it, but it's been done. You can be the first team to win Six Nations 3 times in a row, and before that you could be the first team to win back-to-back Grand Slams after giving the fans a very disappointing World Cup. And you let them down again. Not good enough. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of being let down as an Ireland fan. It's not good enough at all. I'll still support the team through thick and thin, but won't have a long good look at themselves, because they're not at the elite level they seem to think they are. Teams are figuring them out so easily. And France certainly had to measure them today. Even now with the bonus point win against Italy. So that's why you have to get a bonus point win. Should have gotten one against Wales. They didn't show up for that game. Had they gotten a bonus point win against Wales, the Six Nations title would very much still be on the line, But they let France have the winning bonus point as well. I said I didn't think they'd get it. I didn't see that one coming at all. I didn't think Ireland could be that bad, but they proved me wrong in many ways, sadly. It's a terrible way to send off 3 Ireland legends as well in their last home game, but at least he got a try, Anyway, guys, just gonna go have a cry to myself about that. What a shite performance. Gonna need better. Not good enough. And wonder how the Irish provinces are gonna get on in the URC in the Champions Cup. It's gonna have to be a lot fucking better than what the national team are doing. So yeah, let's hope they can do better. Alright guys, slán go fóill.